Folks, I'm really enjoying the conference. I hope you are too. There's so much new that's happening in GIS. It's just amazing. And there's even more to come. And that's partly what my presentation is about. So let me give you an outline of my presentation. I'm going to start by telling you the genesis of the CrowTrax Web Map, why I did it. And then I'm going to actually take you to CrowTrax. I should ask, has anybody actually seen CrowTrax? Wow, I'm amazed. That is amazing considering the competition that there is in the media to get something noticed. So that says something. From there, I'm going to talk about the response, and we can learn things about how people responded and the media responded to this web application. Next is the geeky part. We're going to go into the hood and look at the technology stack. And finally, I'm going to give you my observations, my experiences after this experience. Just where are we going with all this GIS technology? So let's start with why I did it. Now, we all know that crows are nice. Crows carry flowers in their beaks, and they're kind to children and senior citizens, right? Well, maybe not, but at least normally they mind their own business. However, except in spring, folks. In spring, crows are not nice. Crows get very territorial and protective during spring when the fledgling crows are coming out, and they attack anybody and anything, near or far. So here's where I work, downtown. This is the 800 block Richard Street, and as you can see, there's a big tree outside of our building. And in the spring of 2015, there was a crow's nest right in that tree, and I want to tell you that 800 block of Richard Street, that was a war zone. And you could stand there at any part of that block, and within a minute or 2 minutes, you could see somebody on either side of the street get donked on the back of the head, and that's what they do. They come up behind you and they smack you in the back of the head. And just about every day, somebody would come into our section and say, you know, I got hit on the back of the head with a crow, or Mary on the second floor got hit by a crow, and you know, a couple times they actually do draw blood. So I thought, you know, as a human being, I'm pretty smart. I know crows are smart, but you know, I think I'm as smart as a crow. Now this is a sign that somebody actually put up on the post outside of our building. If you look at it, it tells a story. There's a crow with his talons outstretched, and there's a human being fleeing in terror. So I thought, you know, as a GIS person, can we do something? Can we at least track those crows, put them on a map, and then we can see where the patterns are? Well, it didn't quite turn out that way, as you'll see. But anyways, let's go on. That's one motivation. The other motivation is a program which my colleague Rick Davidson and I started this year at Langara College called the Geographic Information Systems program. Now, they told me not to plug my product, but I have to plug it a little bit just to tell you that this was also a motivation. I wanted to give the public and potential students an example of what a GIS is and how it can be useful. So that was the motivation. I'm sorry to plug my product, but that was the motivation. And the other part of the motivation was that it was a real situation that I wanted to do something about. Okay, so let's actually go to the CrowTrax website. Well, it's probably because we have so many of them up there. Okay, so the idea of this is that if you have been attacked by a crow, you can go to the web map here, and you can click on it, and it brings up a little form. And I tried to make it very simple, because this is for mobile as well as for desktop. So you select what you think is the aggressiveness, and you put in something. Maybe just like it hurts, you know? And you track it, and the big crow down here disappears. And I had to put this part in because we got so many bogus reports. But this is what you get. It says, we will add your entry to the map when we have verified the content. I put that up after I got 100 entries, which all said, we crows are taking over this map. And I looked up the IP finally, I'm actually able to record the IP, and it came from Australia, so for a while I actually blocked the entire continent of Australia. It's not a good thing. Okay, so that's the... okay, so that's what it looks like, a very simple web map. Let's talk about how people responded, because it was quite interesting. First of all, there was the media response. So when the web map was ready to go in April, that's okay. Wait, the sound. Okay. So when the web map was ready to go in April, the media department at Langdara College sent out press releases to all the media, and we waited. And the first one that came along was 24 hours. So the reporter from 24 Hours called me, and I told him what I was doing. He said, that's fine. It's all about GIS, right? It's a web map. The next day, to my chagrin, to my shock, what came up on the web map was, and now I have to find this.
This was all working earlier.
It was all working earlier. To my shock, chagrin, this is what came up. Can you imagine? What a salacious cover. Mapping murder in large letters and small letters of crows. I think he wants to help me here because I'm technology challenged in some ways. Ah, I get it. Okay, so that was 24 hours. The media responses were really quite interesting. And there was a certain theme there that we can learn from. And I'm going to show you one, which was from CBC. So the CBC reporter and I met at Langdara College, and he asked me who I was and what I was doing. And it was very clear to him that the CrowTrax map is a GIS. I said, okay, hold right there. Whoops. Now you see where I was going with this. That's okay. So it's very clear to him that the CrowTrax web map is it's a GIS, and I explained a GIS is an information system, but it's a geographic information. You see, it's got spatial component to it. You can put the CrowTrax attacks on the map, and you can see patterns. And furthermore, I said our program at Langdara College uses open source GIS software, and I said that's important because now everybody can do GIS. And so at a certain point I said something like, I never met a crow that I didn't like, ha. But the message that I gave him was about GIS and the usefulness of GIS, and here's how the report came out on CBC.
Alfred Hitchcock's The Birds is meant to be fiction, but as many people have experienced firsthand in our city, crows can sometimes be malicious. Many people fall innocent every spring to earth dive bombing them, especially during this time of year as it's nesting season. The birds become very protective of their offspring. But now a team of instructors from Langdara College have developed a tool to help you avoid getting attacked.
I'd like to say that I have never met a crow I didn't like, but at this time of year, the crows are very aggressive. As you're going down the street, they will come up behind you, and they will smack you on the head with their talons, and sometimes they do draw blood. And that's not very nice, and I've had a lot of encounters like that myself.
The online map is interactive and documents where aggressive crow attacks happen.
Okay. Okay, so you can see there that the message sent was GIS, it's useful. Open source is useful. But the message that came back, the report was, beware of crows. So there's some lessons to learn from that. So that was the media response. Let me talk to you about the public response. There are a couple of themes in the public response. One of them was about crows. And did you know that crows actually attack other birds? Cats, dogs, squirrels? This picture here is of a crow actually nipping the tail of a dachshund. And that was a repeated theme. I didn't know that they did such things. These crows have been getting away with murder for years, folks. The other thing was what I would call, well, the trauma of having a crow attack. Now, and here's a typical one. Attack from behind with no verbal warning. So if you're going down the street and you see a dog growling at you, you get a sense to prepare. Something's going to happen, right? But when you're just walking down the street and all of a sudden you get it from the back, I mean, that was very traumatic for people. Attack from behind. One person put down that this happened 10 years ago. And I'm not laughing at this person. This person remembers getting attacked by a crow 10 years ago, and they made a crow attack report. Now, originally, my idea was that I would put down the date so that we would see, when are the crows most active, but it didn't turn out that way because people were putting down reports that happened years ago, time in the past. So that was a repeated theme, and also the fact it was personalized, This one says, attacked me 2 times, I feel like I am on their list. Now, if you know anything about crows, you might be on their list, because if you harass a crow, the crow will remember. And the next time you see him, you'll get his buddies, and they will all, you'll have a murder of crows on your back, put it that way. But there was that sense, that very traumatic and also like personal against me. And there's a lesson for that too. So, the original scope of this project, I thought, I zoomed the map into Vancouver, and I thought, maybe we would get 200 responses. That would be great. We actually got over 1,500 responses, and we got several hundred bogus responses too. And that shows that there was a lot of interest in this subject. Now, the original scope was Vancouver, but one day I got a call from a radio station in Victoria, and they said, we noticed that people are putting reports in Victoria. And I looked on the map, and actually there was only 3, but they obviously have been watching that. So I did an interview with the radio station in Victoria, and then there were more crow reports in Victoria, and another radio station called me. Then there were more crow attack reports in Victoria, and about this time a colleague at Langara College said to me, it's magpie season in Australia just starting, I wonder if you're going to get reports from there. And I thought, this thing is getting out of hand, right? And I had visions of the BBC calling me, and the first report on the BBC World Service would be, crows are attacking in London, but don't worry, there's a web map where you can go and make your report. Actually, that didn't happen, and around the middle of June, I changed the web map so that when you click on it, it says now, thank you for your crow reports, and crow season is over. So we got a lot of media attention. I did interviews with CBC, 3 interviews with CBC, CTV, The Sun, The Province, my colleague Rick Davidson did some of those. Motherboard, which I never heard of, Canadian Geographic, and other media outlets like CTV and Globe and Mail also covered the CrowTrax Web Map. So with all these media outlets covering this web map, can you guess where most people learn about CrowTrax? Can you guess? Facebook. Facebook. When we looked at the web stats for the web map, the majority came from Facebook. So that's another story. Anyways, I can't complain about all the media attention, no matter what they talked about, because our registrations for the program actually doubled. It went from 6 to 13 in 1 week. So that shows you that it was all worth it. Okay, let me go under the hood. The first thing I'm going to tell you is that this is a leaflet API. And don't get me wrong, folks, I love Google Maps. But Google Maps, as you can expect, it's only free to a certain point. And so you get 25,000 map loads in a day. And I didn't think I was going to get that many, but just as a sort of point of principle for this type of application, I thought I would use the leaflet API. So let's go and actually look at the web map. And so you can see that there's actually multiple layers here, and you can see where they come from here. Here's the Esri grayscale layer. I like this one. This is the Stamens watercolor layer. We've got a streets layer from OpenStreetMap, an Esri satellite layer, and a Google satellite layer. And because of Victoria, I also put on a little box here. You can go to Victoria, you can go back to Vancouver. It's also got a heat map. Now, the heat map I'm not real pleased with. It's an open source product, and it certainly doesn't compare to what you would see with maybe an Esri, an ARC map, heat map, or a Google map, or a QGIS map, but it's a work in progress. That's the web map. Now let's talk about behind the scenes. These Crow reports, of course, have to be saved somewhere. So they're saved in a database. That's not funny. Not to the person who did that. It flew at the time like I was eating his baby 3 times in a row. Okay, so let's go back to the PowerPoint here. And whoops. Maybe this one? Maybe this one? She's the head of GIS, so she has to know about these things, right?
I'm used to the technology.
Okay. Okay, so where are these Crow reports stored? Well, my first take at it was a Google Fusion table. And if you're not familiar with Google Fusion Table, it's something which Google offers. Again, sorry, Nikki. This? Oh, it's Internet Explorer, right? Okay. Actually, it looks like it's not going to show it because I'm not logged in. But Google Fusion Tables is something that Google offers, and it's really neat because you can store your data in Google. You don't have to worry about getting hacked into, and you can also filter. So one of the things that happened is, as I said, we got many bogus reports, and sometimes, thank you, sometimes the same person would enter multiple entries, right? Bogus entries like, Crow followed me into the bar and ran off with my girlfriend. Well, I'm sorry, I don't believe that. So with the Google Fusion tables, you're able to filter by IP, because one of the things I did behind the scene was capture the IP, and then I could get rid of all those at one time, and I could also block the IP. And what I did to block the IP, so to get the CrowTrax on the map, through JavaScript, there's an AJAX lookup with a server-side program, which is a PHP program, and it contacts the database and gets features in and out of the database. What I would do when this was a blocked IP is I would set the web map to synchronous, and then I would tell the web application to sleep for 45 seconds. Do you know what the effect of that would be? It means the user's browser would lock up for 45 seconds. Okay? So after that, they generally didn't come back. However, as things proceeded, I needed another solution because there were too many Crow reports on the map. The map was slowing down. You can only put so many of these icons on the map. So I changed it to a MySQL database because you can do something really neat with a MySQL database. And watch this now. As I pan to the left, you can see there are no Crow reports to the left. But when I let the mouse go, there they are. And by the same token, now there's none to the right. But when I let the mouse go, there they are. So what's going on behind the scenes here? And again, this is the geeky part, that on the Windows event of not drag, but drag end, I'm capturing that Windows event through my JavaScript. And through the Leaflet API, I'm getting the extent of the map, and I'm sending that to the server-side program. The server-side program then contacts the database and does what's called an MBR lookup, or minimum boundary rectangle. So it's only going to get the CrowTrax reports which are within the current extent of the map. Now, the browser keeps a list of the old CrowTrax attacks, and so when the new list comes back, all it has to do is add the new ones, get rid of the old ones, and leave the rest of them alone. So most times as the user zooms or pans around the map, the browser doesn't have to do much work. Okay? So this just keeps things reasonable and manageable. Okay, so that's the basic technology of the, you're coming up because you're going to bring up my PowerPoint again. This is great. Okay, and this is what this spatial query actually looks like. This is the geekiest part of the presentation, but I think it's neat. It's an MBR query to MySQL. Select such and such, where MBR contains, and there's the actual geometry that's being sent to MySQL. And that's as geeky as it's going to get. Let me conclude my presentation with some observations, things which I figured out just from this whole experience. And let me ask you a question. Where are we going with all this GIS technology? Do you ever feel like you're on the Starship Enterprise and you're boldly going where no man has gone before? That's how I feel. Let me ask you a question. Here's a question I ask myself. How do you make GIS popular? Now, my wish, as someone who really appreciates GIS, is that, yeah, I want people to know and understand the technology. And I'm sure that's how many of you feel too. So, during this time period when I was on the radio and the TV, many people would come up to me and say, I saw you or I heard you, and we would start a conversation about the web map. And the conversation would usually go something like this. I would say, actually CrowTrax is a geographic information system. I would say, so it's an information system, but it's got a spatial component. You see, you put the attacks on the map, then you can see patterns, you see? And that's very useful. And furthermore, I would say the program at Langara College is based on open source technology. Open source technology is really, really interesting and useful because now it means everybody can do GIS. And the person that I was talking to would inevitably say, you know, I was attacked by a crow. Last year, I was walking down 10th Avenue. This crow came behind me. I wasn't doing anything. So, my first observation is the academic approach doesn't work. That is, you can't get people interested in GIS just by pointing out the fantastic capabilities. It has to meet a need. And CrowTrax, this web app, met a need. It hit a nerve. Many people have a crow story and they want to tell it and write it down. So one of my colleagues said it very well. He said the best GIS is an invisible GIS. That is, you don't even know that it's there. Well, I take issue with that because I want people to understand and know about GIS, but I guess the point is that GIS becomes popular, AGIS becomes popular because it meets a need, okay? Not because it's useful and dazzling. For most people, when I talk to them about CrowTrax, well, it was all about a crow attack me. So really, who even cares about GIS? Let me give you an analogy as to where I think we're going with all this stuff. This is my take on it. You all remember the printing press. What a marvelous invention. It revolutionized exchange of information throughout Europe and then the rest of the world. But you know, only the wealthy could print. And think about it, even today, how many of us would have the finances or the space to have this kind of technology, right? But, well, remember the photocopier. There's the first commercial one, the Xerox 914. The photocopier not only revolutionized printing, but it meant that now everyone can print. Everyone can print. So do you know where I'm going with this? Think about the last 40 years, even if you haven't been part of GIS for that particular period of time. Think of the research, the development that's gone on, the algorithms, how we've been able to understand our world and use it and change it, and the tools and the increase in computing power to be able to use these tools. That's been fantastic. But you know, the truth is that up till now, GIS has been the province of the enterprise. And I don't mean the Starship enterprise. I mean that up till the present time, GIS, the only organizations that have been able to use GIS to a great extent are the big organizations. Government, oil, mining, forestry, and like that. But that has changed and is changing in the past few years. Now you've got a whole host of tools which are available to everyone. You've got Leaflet as a web map, OpenStreetMap, PostGIS, just think about that, a free spatial database. You've got QGIS for the desktop, and just as one example, a free LiDAR processing tool called Fusion. Not only have you got the free GIS tools, but you've got the data sets that are available now. Now, it was only 2009 when the City of Vancouver published its open data set. Thank you. Its open data website. And that website was and is a list of data sets that you can download. But there's a new generation of open data management tools out there now, which is just light years ahead of what we did in 2009. They allow you to search by keyword. They allow you to analyze right on the website. They allow you to create new data sets, and they allow you to stream. And think about that for a mobile application. The user brings up the mobile application. They don't want to wait for the developer to go and get the latest data set from the Vancouver Open Data site. The application itself can go get it because the data site will stream it to them. And these are three of the best that we're looking at. Burnaby uses the ArcGIS Open Data, Surrey uses CCAN, and City of Edmonton uses Socrata. All fantastic tools. So CrowTrax is an example of a new type of geo app. Just imagine that I am a GIS developer in a municipality, as Mickey said. Do you think my supervisor is going to come along and say, Jim, what the city really needs now is a map so people can track their crow attacks? I don't think so. When the tools are expensive and the analyst's time is limited, GIS must focus on the enterprise. That's the way it is. But when the tools are free, when the data sets are free and beckoning to you, this beckons to me, then GIS is limited only by the limits of human imagination, which, as we know, is pretty well unlimited. So what I'm going to suggest to you is that as exciting as the journey has been with GIS so far, he just started. There's a line in Star Trek where Mr. Kirk says, Mr. Scott, we need warp speed now. I'm going to suggest to you that, you better buckle your seatbelt because we're entering warp speed right now. There's going to be fantastic applications coming out in the future. Any questions?
Questions for Jim?
Don't be intimidated by Mr. Spot.
How long did it take you to develop that app?
Well, because I do have a full-time job, it was like a couple of months, but it's based on technology that I already know. I already know about Google Fusion tables and JavaScript and that stuff. So it's based on what you already know.
Any other questions? Well, Jim, I've been attacked 3 times right in front of that building.